Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday, 24th of May. Welcome to PatFacts. Patrick here, Pat on your back, personal fitness. Hope everyone had a good long weekend and a great little break, little hiatus. We had sort of an unplanned 2-week hiatus from PatFacts. A couple things to look after, and just decided to take a little bit of a timeout. For me to get a few things looked after, do a couple family things, and just sort of recharge. So again, it wasn't really planned. That's why we didn't really mention it. And typically, if I know I won't be around, I'll try to put on replays or something. It was kind of a 1 week turned into a 2 week sort of hiatus. So thanks for your patience with that, and hopefully we'll catch you back here on our replays and back now. Should be back most weeks, and again, if not, anything that could be coming up, I should know a little in advance to let you guys know, or have a from the vault series like we usually do. So I thought it was a good opportunity to talk about taking a timeout. We talked about this back at the end of last year when we entered our fourth quarter. We had our fourth quarter talk, and we talked about having timeout, calling timeouts when we need to, because even though we have game plans and strategies and contingency plans hopefully laid out, they might not always work for us the way that we hope for, or something could come up, or our opponent, life, could throw something a little unexpected at us, and that may mean we have to call timeout and re-strategize. That's what a timeout typically is. And thought, having our 2 weeks off, and with NHL and NBA playoffs going on, XFL playoffs ended a few weeks ago, baseball's going on, a bunch of different sports hitting out this time of year. Timeouts are a common thing. Timeouts are where we stop, pause for a moment, look at what is and or isn't working, and then we make adjustments. Sometimes it's adjustments to what we're doing. Sometimes it's adjustments based on, again, our opponent. In this case, life. What is life handing us that we need to adjust to, that we need to modify our plan a little bit, so that we can continue pushing forward and working towards those goals that we have set. So don't be afraid to call a timeout when you need to. Take that time out, take that time to refresh, to reset, to reevaluate what it is you've been doing, what's working, what's maybe not working so well. And then the second part of the timeout is kind of coming up with that game plan. So once you've collected yourself, refreshed a little bit, taken a moment to step back, observe what's been going on so far, then let's come up with a new strategy, or let's modify our existing strategy to combat the obstacle we're facing, or to overcome, or to push back at our opponent as needs to be, or adjust to what they're doing to us, what's happening around us. So we come up with our plan, then we put that plan into place once the timeout is over, but we take that time to review it. So don't be afraid, and don't feel like it's a step backwards if you take a timeout. We all need that sometimes. Take them when you need them. Just try to be calculated with them as much as you can, or at least how to come out of them. Sometimes we don't always, like in my case, the last couple of weeks, I wasn't planning on taking the 2 weeks away. Just sort of happened organically each week, really. 1 week I thought, okay, that's good, I'll be back next week. And then last week came, I thought, no, 1 more week. I got a few things to kind of sort out first and look through. So, but don't feel that is a step backwards. But again, have a plan of how to get out of a timeout when you go into one. Sometimes for a lot of us, if we take that timeout, or we stop, or we maybe fall off the wagon a little bit, or we just need a day just to do nothing, or just to get away from what's bothering us or what we're working on, just to refresh. If those are really needed, and you feel, you know what, I'm just maybe getting a little burnt out or frustrated, I just need to step back for a bit, that's okay. But again, have a strategy to come out of that. Okay, what's my time frame? Is it going to be 1 week? Is it going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be probably a day or two? I went week to week because we do this every week. If it was daily, like it was in the beginning, maybe just a couple of days off just for a little break. Or maybe I would have come on and said, you know what, we're going to take a break for a couple of weeks. Let's see you on this date, and then you guys would know what was when to tune in and when to pop back on. So try to have a bit of an exit strategy. Know what you need based on previous experiences. If you're taking time away, if you're recharging, if you're escaping something that you just need to clear your mind from for a few days. Again, think of what you've done in the past and what's worked for you. Try to work within that time frame, and then have, again, an exit strategy. Okay, I'm going to take away for 3 days. I'm not going to look at this project. I'm going to maybe focus on a couple other things that maybe aren't as taxing or demanding or just different. Or maybe some things that, if I can get these few things out of the way, that gives me a little more mental clarity for this big project that I'm just spinning my wheels on. I'm not really getting anywhere. So you call a timeout, take that time away. I'm going to reflect on what's been going on. I'm going to visit what's working, what's not working. I'm going to re-strategize. I'm going to give myself a couple days break. By day 4, say, I'm going to be back into it. And then put yourself in a good position to be there on day 4, restarting your work towards that goal. So sometimes a timeout doesn't necessarily mean you sit and do nothing. There's a bit of work involved. If we kind of put some of that work in now, and again, if you think back to times when you just had to get away from a project or just gave yourself some space or back up for a bit, maybe what was the time frame of that? What were you looking at? And again, implement that. Try to put that into a little bit of a strategy for you, a plan, a game plan, so that if and or when you call a timeout, that plan's already there. If not, if one comes up, try your best to either use your time away from your goal to maybe plan your exit strategy, or your re-entry, I guess it would be your exit out of your timeout. Do a little bit of that legwork up front if you can. And then again, you can kind of relax, prepare, knowing that there's a strategy to come out of the timeout. There's a game plan for you. Even if your game plan towards your goal isn't set yet, if your game plan to come out of the timeout is there, because we need to bring ourselves out of that timeout and have a plan for it, then again, it's a little less daunting of a task. Or again, you can focus more energy on your goal and what the new plan might be for that. So after you take your time to recharge and unwind, again, maybe do something different, you know, okay, I have an exit strategy in place to come out of this timeout I've taken. Now let's focus on my last little bit of this timeout. Let's focus the energy on picking a new game plan. My schedule for this one isn't working. It's too much time commitment. I'm losing out on other areas. So what can I do to require less time to be committed to this goal? What can I do? Maybe I can do different chunks. Maybe I need to break my goal down into even smaller steps so I can plug away at smaller, but kind of bite-sized goals, and then again have more time for the other responsibilities I have and the other free time I want to have. Put some of that work into play, and again, will put you in a better spot when you come out of that timeout and get back on track with your goal. For so many of us, if we don't have that exit strategy or that plan to get out of the timeout, then the timeout turns into a delay of game, where a timeout is only so long. Now in a game, it's usually set and designated. For you, we're saying pick what works for you based on your past experiences. If you're not sure, you may have to just do some trial and error and see. But again, for me, I thought a week. I got the last Wednesday, thought, you know what, I need one more week. And I added another week on. So you may get to your exit date and think, I just need one more day. But again, we don't want one day to turn into 3 weeks, to turn into 4 months, to turn into never doing it again. So that's why the exit strategy is a very key component to this. And you can always modify it and tweak it if you need to. Obviously, listen to your body. But it's that fine line of listening to your body and maybe putting things off or procrastinating or avoiding it because things are maybe a little complicated or tricky or different than you expected. And it's something we all go through and deal with and need to work on a daily basis. So think about, again, maybe a time before when you had to just think, you know what, I've got to step away from this project right now. I need a break. I'm not going anywhere. How long did you take? How long did you need before you got back? Or did you maybe take a little bit too long? And then we run the risk of it being even more difficult to get back into that routine. So if we can, again, have that exit strategy, we don't leave too much time from the last day we worked on it, and we're not kind of trying to get out of that hole. And sometimes if we wait too long and it feels kind of daunting to get back on track, that's when negative self-talk can kick in, and we can actually put ourselves further behind by taking more time away or just being frustrated and not getting back to it at all. And we don't want that. So again, one of these, put a little bit of work in up front, should pay off for you in the long run. Because, hey, Natty, because when we do take those timeouts, when we will have to take them, planned or otherwise. Hey, Bonnie, welcome in. Good to see everybody. When we do take these timeouts, again, we want them to be strategic and as calculated as possible. Again, there's wiggle room if you need it, but try to be as strategic and calculated and put in the legwork beforehand. Be proactive versus reactive. So that, again, when these timeouts do occur, you can take it and then you can actually relax, because you know, okay, I've got a 3-day window here. I've got a plan to come out of this. I've already got things laid out. Regardless of the situation, I just put this strategy into this moment. So then you don't get so stressed out about, oh, should I take the 3 days off and I'm not doing this and this should have been done. Again, we get in our own way and then we get overwhelmed or stressed. And that 3 days turns into a week to a few weeks to a month. And then again, we don't get back on track with our goal. Just knowing you have that strategy in place, even if you don't follow it 100%, having it in place is a bit of relief. It's a bit of comfort. It's a bit of less stress and overwhelm for you, knowing that strategy is in place instead of trying to figure it out as you go, if that makes sense. So we all need timeouts, but I recommend, and it's something I'm trying to work on as well, is to create that exit strategy, that system to know, okay, I'm going to give myself whatever the outcome is, couple days, whatever maybe it is needs to be for you, maybe how you're going to spend those few days, and then how are you going to get back on track. So maybe that first day back, maybe it's just very simple tasks. Maybe it's just getting your file folder out of the drawer where you put it for those 3 days, putting it back on your desk, maybe getting your supplies ready, maybe getting your resources ready, your books, your notes, maybe some web pages set so that day 2 you can get into a little bit of the work. And again, use the strategies you've used before to know your block times of work and how you want to approach this particular project. But it's just like we say with the gym, set yourself up for success. Have your gym clothes laid out the night before, have your playlists made, have your water bottles ready, all these things. That could be a similar approach too, instead of thinking, and again, back to the fitness, if you take time off, when you come back, we ease back into it. We're not going to go right back where we were. We have to take a couple steps back and ease into it. Less intensity, maybe less weights, less weight lifted, different changes until we get back into our routine and then work back up to where we were. That can be a similar approach as well, where out of your exit strategy, again, maybe your first day is setting things up, or maybe the night before you get things set up, and then have a few tasks kind of outlined to plug away at. And then probably small things, maybe even just reviewing what you've done so far. Maybe that'll help you if you're stuck, get away from it for a bit, come back, review what you've been doing so far. Maybe that'll refresh, give you a bit of a refresher. Maybe that will bring some clarity to a situation that wasn't there. Maybe that will help you find the areas where maybe you're relapsing a bit. Why were you stuck? Oh, you know what? I'm not getting to the gym like I was early on, or I've fallen off my nutrition a little bit, or, you know, there's more meetings now on my schedule than there were before. Can I change these or combine meetings, or maybe get rid of a few just to free up a bit of time for project work? Is there something we can outsource or delegate a little bit, or something we can just kind of clear off the table to free up the meeting? So again, maybe that's first stage, just reviewing where you've been up until now, what you've done so far, looking for maybe red flags and as well green flags. What's been going good? What your when life works list? What's been happening when I was having success? When I was doing great work on the project and making that forward progress? Why? What was going on? Revisit some of those times too. And then you can use that to, again, either adjust and tweak to what you're doing, maybe going back to what you were doing before, or looking at your approach from a different way. And then maybe day 2 is getting back into some of the tasks, maybe following up with some phone calls or some messages, or looking at things, some information to reply to or to gather. Again, break it into those small chunks again, and ease yourself back into that workload to get back into that momentum, back into that routine. And then we can, as you grow and get back into it, then again, that momentum starts to build slowly. And as the momentum builds, confidence builds, a little bit of motivation builds, and then you can start to upload or increase, that workload that you're taking on that project. And then hopefully you came out of the timeout and found those solutions you needed to whatever the reason was you needed the timeout. More rest, more availability, less time taken up by the project. Again, there's going to be a variety of reasons that it really individually based. But hopefully, again, you use the timeout to observe those, plan for those, to overcome them or work around them or deal with them, and then apply that to your new strategy and your new approach to your goal accomplishment along the way. Again, we think of our goal setting, our resolutions, they're new years. They're not just January. We've got the whole year in general to work on these. Thinking again, as we split our year into quarters, like we've talked about here, we're approaching kind of that halftime. June is the 6th month. We're getting to that halftime. So we still got half the year to go, but we've also already kind of used half the year. So use the timeouts when we need to. Take those times to refresh, recharge. Take those times to revisit your plan. And do you need to restructure? Do you need to reorganize? Do you need to tweak the goal a little bit? Do you need to tweak the deadline or the process to get there? But if you watch sports at all, you'll know there's sometimes a strategy to the timeouts. Sometimes it's so if I'm the coach, I call timeouts so my team can maybe settle down. I can remind them of our strategy. Again, maybe tweak our strategy based on what the opponent's doing. And then we can kind of regather, regroup, and go out and try to, again, kind of fine tune what it is we were doing or get back on track to what we were doing. Sometimes as a coach, I could call a timeout because my opponent has lots of momentum. They're really pushing the ball at us. They're always in our end of the court. They have lots of momentum. They're getting good passes, easy baskets. The game looks easy to them. They've got us on our heels. Okay, if I call a timeout, they have to stop and sit down just like us. So we can sit and recover and recalibrate while they sit and readjust and try to think about what's going right. They're still. They're not moving. That momentum sometimes gets a little bit broken. And then we can come out with those strategies and those resources we put in and hopefully push back and push momentum back their way as we're building our own momentum. So maybe look at some areas that you're working on. Look at your goals. Look at your progress. And do you need a little time out to refresh, to realign the course, maybe to find some new direction, to find a new way? Do you need maybe a timeout for a water break? Do you need a timeout maybe to go away for a few days and recharge? And do you need a timeout to maybe go away for a few days and take that course on online marketing, on Spanish lessons, on project management, whatever the case may be, depending on what goal you're working on? Maybe getting away from working in the business, as we like to say, and get out and work on the business. Maybe that different approach, a different perspective could help you if that's sort of your goal. maybe taking a timeout and getting out of the gym for a bit and going and taking some yoga classes, going on that nutrition workshop, getting out and maybe just doing some physical activity instead of some intense, demanding exercises. Remember, there's a difference between physical activity and exercise. Maybe it's taking a time out and going and working on your mental health for a few days. Maybe it's going and working on your social health, relationships, being around some people, visiting friends. Maybe again, just a change of scenery for some of us can make a huge difference. And even though we leave and come back, that little bit of time away can give us a little bit of clarity. And just a break from the stress and the pressures and the tension that maybe we feel when we're in a certain environment because of the demands that are on us. So there's no right or wrong reason for a timeout. And depending on your situation, I'm thinking of this as kind of an individual basis, but maybe you do have teams that report to you. Maybe you do need to call a bit of a timeout and have a productive team meeting where we gather everyone in and say, "Okay, gang, you know what? We're spinning our wheels a bit. We're not meeting sales goals, or we're not as far along as we forecast back in January. What's working? What's not? What do you guys think?" And then sometimes the players will interject. The coach will give their opinion. Sometimes it's a bit of a give and take because, again, we're all a team here. We're all working on teams. So you can have that approach to it too. So maybe in your work life, there needs to be a bit of a timeout, whether it's you away or, again, just kind of rallying the troops and saying, that competitor put in a lower bid than we thought. Are we able to compete with this? What can we do to make sure we get that contract? Are we able to restructure our system or our plan a little bit to push back at what they pushed at us momentum-wise? But feel free, again, to take those individual timeouts as you need them and really take care of yourself. And again, sometimes we just get to that point where either things just become automatic and we kind of get into that routine. Maybe we glaze over a little bit and just go through the motions. That timeout, again, time away, makes it almost like a fresh new space when we come back. Maybe we're just frustrated with the process. There's obstacles, roadblocks we haven't been able to overcome. Sometimes getting away brings us down into that maybe yellow or green zone versus red. Maybe with a clearer mind, we can make some better decisions or see things from a different perspective that help us solve the problem that maybe has been stumping us for a little while. And if we're just finding that we're overwhelmed and uninspired, unenthusiastic, again, a little time away, change the scenery, doing something for ourselves, taking care of ourselves, then again, we can come back with that good perspective, that good energy, maybe feeling a little refreshed, where we can, again, get over those obstacles and develop plans to work around or through, or how to deal with those obstacles that are thrown our way. Because if something comes our way now, if we take the time out, again, if we can make that plan, chances are something else will come up down the road. If we have a plan in place, or we can draw from this experience of this timeout, the next timeout, maybe it's just a 20-second timeout. In basketball, you can take a full or a 20. Maybe it's just a quicker. Maybe it's a 20-second timeout. Maybe it's just a day instead of 3 days. Maybe it's a half a day, just to revisit your system and put these steps in place, or again, just to get away and recharge and then come back. We've talked about strategies and contingency plans and accountability partners and scheduling. And I want to encourage you to take your time tonight or whenever you kind of work on some of the things we talk about. I know Natty and a few of you suggested right after PatFacts, we kind of get our journals here and we do some work on what we've talked about, or we put some strategies in place. Maybe this week, when you block your time, set aside some time to look at a timeout plan. So how do we exit a timeout? What's maybe an ideal-ish timeout time frame for me? And again, it could depend on situation and on yourself. So don't feel it has to be a certain way, but at least have a guideline. It's nice to have a guideline and tweak it rather than have to be really reactive and try to figure things out on the fly. So maybe you work on that strategy set. If you need a timeout now, you can take it, or if one is needed down the road, which more than likely at some point it will be, then again, the strategies are there, the process is there, so you can take a break, reflect, re-strategize if need be, and then start that attack, that counterattack toward that goal, that process going towards your destination, your final goal that we set toward the end of last year, if you've been with us, or whenever you joined in and have started along this journey. But again, the idea was we started October-ish last year, in September, early October, I believe, going into 23 and finishing 23, kind of the end of 23 or close to it is when we want to accomplish this goal. So we're almost at halftime. We got 6 months, a little over 6 months to go. Let's reflect on where we've been. Let's check in, and are we where we wanted to be at the 6 month mark? If not, let's just look at things. Let's revisit it. You can learn from it. Don't beat yourself up about it. Call timeout. Revisit the game plan. Where are we right now? Where do we want to be? How can we get to where we want to be? Do we need to adjust the end goal? Do we need to tweak things along the way? Do we need to make adjustments to our plan to make sure that we get as close to our goal accomplishment date that we set out in the beginning? Or again, do we need to make some adjustments to that? Maybe we're a little too enthusiastic in our date setting, in our final day of accomplishment. You know what? I didn't count for this, and this, and I'm going to be away for a few weeks here now. Maybe I need to readjust my last 6 months. That's okay. It's not carved in stone like the Flintstones in your granite. It's pencil and paper. It's on a computer. If it's pen, you get some whiteout or just write a new sheet. You can tweak these and readjust these as we go. That's what we want to do. We just don't want to throw them away and forget about them because they got too hard. Let's just take your time out, take what you need, revisit it, relook at it, restructure it to, again, get us back on track and hopefully get us achieving that high level of success that we all deserve to achieve. So last few minutes here, just a few of you here in the chat, if you're watching even on recording, I'd love to hear from you guys. Maybe what do you do when you take a timeout? Do you have an activity or a process or a way you kind of get away from whatever it is maybe that's overwhelming, or if you're working towards that goal and taking a little break from it? Is there something you do? For some people, we like to distract ourselves. Maybe we'll put on our favorite movie. Maybe we'll put in the headphones and some music, and we'll listen to some good music that gets our mind off things. Maybe we read a book. Maybe we just work on something completely different. I mentioned the other week, I guess 3 weeks ago now, before I went on my hiatus, I don't know if I do some DJing, and as a couple of you know, I'm going to start DJing in the summer, doing some weddings and events for a company. So I've been doing some training for that and getting some things ready. So I'm excited because it's work, but it's different. I can go and play some music and enjoy it and see people react to it. And it's a little different than playing in a class or doing PatFacts or working at the store. So I'm excited for that kind of distraction, that other kind of work to get my mind off of some of what's going on and just give me that break. So hopefully when I come back to some of the business stuff or the store, I can have that clarity and that good perspective to put towards some of the tasks that need to be done and accomplished. Natty says podcast, or the way she kind of gets away from things. Yeah, podcasts are great too. I sort of have probably too big of a collection. I've got to go through it again and thin some out, but I have a sort of a personal development podcasts, and then I have just kind of entertainment podcasts, show reviews. A couple of wrestlers that I used to follow have podcasts and do interviews. Even some of the fitness people, fitness mentors I follow and coaches have podcast or guests on podcast. And when they're a guest, typically it's more interview style. There's a bit of professional development there, but usually it's more them answering the questions and going through. And then I have sort of my professional development and personal development podcasts I listen to as well. So great example, yeah, podcasts, music, again, TV, movies. Just be sure, again, have a bit of a strategy with them if you can. Try not to get sucked into that, like we all have been, that streaming wormhole or that scrolling wormhole of never-ending content. Maybe, again, pick a movie, maybe pick a show, maybe pick a time frame to watch a little bit. But maybe that's your reasoning. As a fitness guy, I have to suggest fitness and physical activity as a break, as a distraction, as getting away from it all. Going for a nice walk, being out in nature. It's nice, hopefully, and sunny where you are. Getting to the beach by the water, just being out and around is great. Putting on, again, some music, lift some weights, go for a bike ride, do some stretching, all those sorts of things, all great examples and great activities where you kind of distract yourself from what's going on because you're mindful in what you're doing and the hormones released and things as well. And you get that good feeling from those hormones and, again, that time away. So it's kind of a 2-for-1, kind of a win-win situation, and your body gets some movement and building some muscle and just to move around and get out of this kind of stiff, maybe still position if you're sitting and doing lots of work. So again, that's why a lot of office workers, it's recommended to get up every 20 minutes or so, to get away from your desk, away from your screen, out of the seated position so your body can move a little bit. Standing desks are great because you're not seated, but you're still standing. You're still still. We still need to move around, so we still want to incorporate that as much as we can. Getting out for an active lunch, if you can get out for a walk on your lunch break or maybe mid-afternoon break, again, gets you away from everything that maybe is stressing you out. That's your time out in your workday. Maybe it gets you away from those things that are stressing you out, bogging you down, that you just can't work through. Maybe get outside, fresh air, sunlight, activity, and clearing the mind gives you such a great, clear and fresh perspective with heightened energy when you get back, that usually those problems just get brushed aside easily because you have such good energy and such a good perspective. That little break away that we don't almost want to take, think, 20 minutes, I could probably get some work done in 20 minutes. You can probably 10x your outputs, if not more, by taking that 20 minutes, 30 minutes away, 5-10 minutes even, just to kind of get away from the environment and hopefully introduce a little bit of movement in there as well. Yeah, Disco Pat, nice. We won't tell Vinny I stole his name. He used to be fine. He won't mind. He's in the US. So that's it for tonight, gang. Again, if you're watching with us live, thanks for tuning in. If you're on recording, thanks for tuning in. Again, we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitch, and also Twitter and YouTube. We broadcast to. I think I got them all the same handle, at POYB Fit. So if you miss it, they get posted to YouTube. There's an archive there. They stay on Facebook, Twitch, there for a couple of weeks. I believe LinkedIn, they stick around as well. But if you can't find them, again, YouTube at POYB Fit, just like any other, however you're watching me right now, other than LinkedIn, that's the handle. So you can find me on there, find all past episodes of PatFacts on there as well. Quite a collection. We're adding to it as I draw some of the archived episodes from their various storage places. So you can find some episodes there. We'll see you back next week. We'll be here. Have a great evening as well, Bonnie. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being back in. Thanks, guys, for your patience after our 2-week hiatus. Natty, if you haven't already, you can rate out if there's someone there. We'll see you next week. Remember, take that time out when you need to. Create that exit strategy. Create those contingency plans that you need to. And as always, remember, always make yourself the priority that you deserve to be by striving to be operationally fit. Stay safe. Take care. Have a great week. And we'll see you next Wednesday.